Breeding is a large part of Mewgenics, so I want to make a quick and simple guide on how to set up a farm system so that you can create perfect cats like Isla over here. Now, the process requires a little bit of luck and it takes a lot of time, so I do highly recommend that you get started on this and you just kind of run it in the background as you're playing. Once you're set up, it actually doesn't take a lot of work to do. This might look a little bit overwhelming to you, so I am going to switch over to a 2-room house to show you how to get started. In this guide, I'm focusing solely on how to breed cats with perfect stats. There's obviously other parts to breeding, like passing down passives or passing down mutations, but honestly, those things are easier to do once you get into Act 2. Now, this video is going to have some spoilers about mechanics and unlocks that you get through NPCs, so if you really don't want any spoilers at all, I would recommend not watching content on the game, I guess. I'm going to do a quick explanation that covers the basics of how breeding works. If you already know all that stuff, please feel free to skip ahead in the video. I'm going to put timestamps below. Breeding in this game is simple. When two cats have a child, their child is going to inherit its stats based on a combination of its parents' base stats. It will have a decent chance to inherit whatever mutations they have, and it'll have a smaller chance to inherit whatever passives or skills the parents have. Now, base stats are the cat's stats before any collars, mutations, injuries, or disorders have been applied. The higher a room's stimulation stat, better chance you have of inheriting the higher stat from the parents. Cats can become inbred if they breed with too many of their close relatives. That's parents and grandparents mostly, or if their bloodline doesn't have enough genetic variance added to it. If a cat becomes inbred, they have a really high chance of developing a negative mutation that just makes them lose stats. Mutations are fairly easy to get later in the game, so I do not recommend inbreeding your cats if you think that that's the way to get mutations. Cats have hidden stats like sexuality, libido, aggression, fondness to other cats, and how inbred they are. Male and female sexed cats produce babies together as long as they are straight or bi and have a healthy libido. To see all of these stats, you're going to need to level up your relationship with Tink. And I recommend prioritizing that to make this whole process a lot easier and more accurate. If you don't have access to this information on your cats, you might be trying to breed a gay cat who will never have children without knowing it. Alright, so here's everything that you're going to need to breed a super cat. You can start the process with 2 rooms, but you're going to want to get to 3 rooms ASAP. You're also going to have to donate a lot of kittens to Tink. You're going to need to donate a minimum of 11 to be able to see your cat's base stats. But I recommend that you go up to 41 so you can see more details on their preferences. I honestly don't think there's much of a reason to keep any kittens at all in the very early game, so I would recommend donating all your kittens unless you've produced a new stud. You're also going to need lots of furniture. Furniture increases your chance of the cat's breeding, and certain furniture will increase the chance of your cats passing down their good genes. So I would recommend collecting as many furniture boxes as you can during your adventures. Alright, so here's how you begin the process. Every day, a stray cat is going to show up at your door. If that cat has a 7 in any of its stats, you're going to take it and you're going to put it on your first floor, which will be your breeding room. Your breeding room is also where you're going to put the majority of your furniture in the early game to raise its comfort and stimulation level as high as possible. If the stray cat doesn't have a 7, don't worry, it's still valuable. You're going to put it in your attic. Your attic is what I like to call the barracks. The barracks are where you store unexceptional cats until you have enough of them to go on an adventure. Once you have 4 cats in your attic, you're going to go on an adventure and you're going to complete however far it is you get in Act 1, and then you're going to give those cats away to NPCs. There's not really a reason to keep any of these cats that have unexceptional stats because you want to raise your NPC relationship levels as fast as possible. People like Frank will upgrade your house size. People like Butch will give you very important inventory space. So any cats that don't have a 7 basically get converted into a currency after you send them out to upgrade your farm system. Later on, the game will introduce a mechanic that will make you want to hold on to some cats that go out on mission. Once that mechanic is introduced, you will know. But even then, I would only keep cats that are truly exceptional and have rolled amazing passives and skills during your adventure. Once you have found multiple stray cats that have a 7 in one of their stats and put them in your breeding room, they should eventually start to make kittens. When they do, check the kitten to see if they've inherited both of their parents' max stat. If they didn't, then this unfortunately is a kitten that you're going to send to Tink or that you could put in your attic to send on an adventure. But if the cat has inherited both of their parents' max stats, congratulations. You are now as smart as a Neanderthal. You have successfully selectively bred your first cat. This kitten is now your stud. However, if you haven't unlocked the ability to see a cat's sexuality yet from Tink, then I recommend you continue to breed their parents until you get another kitten of the opposite gender. Having two kittens from their parents of opposite genders just increases your chance that one of them will be able to continue the bloodline. If you're confident that your kittens will be able to reproduce to future generations, then that's when you move out the parents of those kittens from the breeding room and you either give them away to an NPC or you send them to your barracks to send on an adventure. You don't need to keep these cats anymore because they've done their purpose. However, in the future, when we get more good stats and we get a house with 3 rooms, this will change a little bit and I'll explain. Now that you have a stud, you're looking for stray cats that show up every day who have a 7 in a stat line that your stud is missing. When you find them, you put them in your breeding room with your stud. You're going to repeat this process until you have a house with 3 rooms. Okay, once you've upgraded your house to have 3 rooms, congratulations, you've got more rooms than the average apartment does in my city. Now, let me explain to you my setup. First, we still have the breeding room. This is pretty much unchanged. It's always going to be a combination of strays that have the stats you need and your stud. You're going to want to put as much stimulation in this room as possible because that's going to increase the likelihood of your kitten inheriting all of the 7s from their parents. The next room is what I call the royal family room. This is where the best of your bloodline get to hang out, except for your stud who's in the breeding room. You're going to want high comfort in this room and high health because you want the cats to be able to chill and live long lives without fighting each other. There are 2 types of cats that are going to be in the royal family room. This room is where you're going to send all of the parents who successfully bred a stud in the breeding room to go spend the rest of their lives chilling in the family room. Second type of cat you're going to send up there are the kittens of your stray and your stud who happen to inherit the max stat from the stray and a handful of max stats from your stud, but were not able to get the perfect combination. Now, this combination of cats is going to produce very strong cats for you to send on adventures, but because they're all related, there's a decent chance they're going to be a little inbred. Slight inbreeding is fine and does not negatively affect your cats, but heavy inbreeding can give them deformations. When you add the kittens that were the failed results of your stray and stud, these cats are going to help reduce the chance of inbreeding in the cats in the royal family room. So that's one of the reasons we send them up there. This room is going to essentially create 3 types of cats for you. On very rare occasions, the failed kittens of the breeding room and the older family members will produce the perfect stud for you to replace your current stud with. But this happens on very rare occasions, and it's hard to have happen without there being a little bit of inbreeding. More likely, you're going to produce cats that have great stats, a little bit of inbreeding, and you're going to send them your barracks so that you can send them out on adventures. And then sometimes you're going to get cats that are super inbred. You're going to give these cats to the doctor so that you can get more side quests. Now, your last room is still the barracks. This is where you're going to send all the kittens that have really good stats but are not suitable to replace your stud. They're going to go on adventures for you, and as your stats get better and better, you're going to find adventuring gets easier and easier. For the barracks, you're going to want as low comfort as possible and as high mutation as possible. This will give your cats an opportunity to buff themselves by fighting or killing each other or mutating before they get sent out on their first mission. So that's my farm system. Let me give you some tips to make breeding a little bit more efficient and easy. I highly recommend marking all of your cats. The way I have my markers set up is that cats from my bloodline who produced my studs, I give them all the genetic marker to show that they're part of my royal family. Any stray that comes in with the stat that I need, I mark them with the stat that they have. And any kittens they produce who are not my new stud, but are good enough to join the royal family, I mark them with the stat as well, just so that I can see which cats come from my super inbred family and which cats are the children of strays. Lastly, any kittens that my royal family produce that are not too inbred and are able to go on missions, I give them the little sword icon just to show that they are soldiers and not to be mistaken as breeding material. I also recommend increasing your food storage as quickly as possible. You get that done by donating your cats to the PMart NPC. Now, every day that you end has a chance of producing the next stud in your genetic line, but ultimately it's like a slot machine. So, in order to make it more efficient, I recommend never having more than 20 cats in your house. Either get rid of some of the old ones with less impressive stats or send some of the kittens out on adventures. But you want to keep the food consumption a day low so that you can go for more days of breeding in between adventures. I personally don't go on adventures until I'm basically out of food. So if you follow this system, you should eventually be able to breed yourself a cat with perfect stats. Now, how do you take one cat with perfect stats and create a dynasty of cats with perfect stats? That is a great question, and I have a plan on how to do it and a few theories in my head, but I haven't actually done it yet, so I feel like it'd be disingenuous to tell you definitely that this will work. But I'll quickly explain to you my plan. I plan to have my new stud, the cat that has all sevens, breed with a distant relative in the family that has mostly sevens. This will let me easily produce a few moderately inbred cats with perfect stats. Now, we have to outbreed those inbred cats. Each of those cats with perfect stats will breed with a stray until they produce a child with perfect stats. Then, the children, who will all be cousins, will breed with each other to create the next generation. I'm hoping by doing one generation of strays and one generation of cousins and alternating back and forth that I'll be able to create a consistent output of cats with sevens. You can always breed the cousins with each other to create perfect soldiers who are too inbred to have kids of their own. And as long as you have one cousin who's working on creating a new generation with a stray, you should be able to add enough genetic diversity to stop your cats from getting inbred to extinction. Now, this is just theory crafting. I also need to get the next upgrade on my house and see how many rooms that adds, because if it adds enough rooms, I'm going to also try to maybe create two different families that branch away from each other and then just breed their children together. Once I've accomplished an army of perfect soldiers that is repeatable and easy to manage, I will obviously make the next video and share it with you. Until then, thank you so much for watching this. If I was not clear about anything, or if you have any further questions, please leave them in the comments. I will respond to you. Have yourself a wonderful day. Peace.